So the Garden City Stewards campaign really cements Marina Bay Sands at the forefront of sustainability in Singapore and globally. And we think that by becoming stewards, by adopting this model, they can not only incentivize and encourage their partners to be stewards with them, but they can also start to change customer attitudes and behaviors and really cement themselves as a place for sustainable luxury. So how can Marina Bay Sands really deliver on this position? Well, while sustainability wasn't at the forefront of design and construction, since 2012, they've made enormous strides in the Sands Eco 360 focus areas. In events, for example, they retrofitted the convention center and synced the event and entertainment management systems to save over $150,000 in energy costs per year. By continuing to be leaders in all of these material issues, they can not only realize environmental and financial benefits, but they can also start to think about new customer experiences. Signature MBS offerings where sustainability is not seen as a constraint, but a source of inspiration and innovation. And based on what we read in the case and in the annual sustainability reports, we think there's a huge opportunity to elevate waste management and sustainable food sourcing to the level of activity and impact as everything else. We also think there's a huge opportunity to further engage employees. Sustainability can be embedded into the culture so that employees are stewards with the organization, and sustainability can be a huge differentiator for the organization in hiring and retention. So I'm going to talk about waste management recommendations and then hand it over to Chris to talk about food sourcing and employee engagement. So first, waste management. MBS produces over 36 tons of waste per day, of which 2 tons alone is in food waste. There's internal and external pressure to reduce what's sent to landfill, and opportunity to even prevent waste from being created in the first place. So we have 2 recommendations in this area. Our first, which we think is a quick win, is for MBS to audit and repair the 5 anaerobic digesters that they already have on site and get the most out of what they've already invested. Our second recommendation is to invest in micro-level food waste tracking and analytics. MBS can work with a couple of startups, such as Refed or LeanPath, to pilot these programs in a handful of restaurants. They'll be able to see what types of waste and how much of it is being created at different stages of the food cycle. For example, maybe what's coming out of food prep or what's being sent back and discarded by customers at the end of life. At the very least, they'll be able to optimize their purchasing decisions and be able to optimize menu offerings to reflect what customers are actually looking for. So in the long term, we think that data can be shared internally among all of the restaurants that MBS runs, as well as their partners to tackle this issue together.
Thank you, Yen. By 2050, unless behaviors change, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. The problem is that Marina Bay Sands has relatively buyer power compared to the rest of the retail sector. Last year, they imported about $16 million worth of seafood compared to Singapore's $1 billion. We have 3 recommendations for Marina Bay Sands to increase both the supply and demand for sustainable sourcing. First, Marina Bay Sands should develop a buyer's consortium with other sustainability-focused hotels, such as Park Royale or Oasia. Kevin mentioned yesterday this might violate antitrust laws, however. Second, based on this increased buyer power, they'll be able to incentivize more of their vendors to get ASC certification, as well as promote restaurants at Eco F&B certification. And then third, they can invest in local vertical farms, such as Sky Greens, as well as increase their own capacity. Last year, their herb garden provided about 600 grams of herbs a day, and we think this can be improved. Now, central to our stewardship program, however, is employee engagement. Last year, there were about 60 Go Green ambassadors, but only about 40 to 50% of team members attended sustainability events. We have, again, 3 recommendations for how employee engagement and staff buy-in can be improved. First, integrate sustainability in mandatory onboarding for all new staff to increase awareness about sustainability and environmental issues facing Southeast Asia, as well as Singapore, and promote and highlight MBS's solutions to these problems. Second, track, report, and reward sustainability measures across different departments to increase transparency and cooperation among staff. And then third, to host innovation challenges among employees to incentivize and promote employee buy-in around issues that are facing their specific departments. For example, MBS disposes of a pack of cards after a single use, and who better to figure out how to upcycle those cards than casino floor employees? Now, we've identified a few 5-year and 10-year goals that we think are attainable through this stewardship program. I'm going to highlight just a few of them. For waste management, in the long term, we believe that they'll be able to track waste on a micro level, similar to energy consumption, based on these pilot programs. Second, based on this increased buyer power from the hotel consortium, hopefully, we foresee that in 10 years, our goal is to have all green event vendors be ASC certified. And then third, for employee engagement, because of this mandatory sustainability onboarding as well as increased awareness, hopefully 10% of staff will be Go Green ambassadors. And we foresee that the increased cost of training these staff members will be offset by the increased efficiency gains they'll see. I'm going to hand it off to Rebecca to talk more about the green events.
Thank you. So we wanted to walk you through a concrete example of how the Garden City Stewards program could be applied to a revenue line. So over the past several years, MBS's Green Meetings package has grown significantly, but there's a chance to scale further. We propose that they adjust the criteria for what constitutes a green meeting and mandate that all events, from galas to weddings to conferences, are sustainable in some form. By instituting a tiered system that's priced at the same level as formerly standard events, they can give event planners the opportunity to choose whatever level of sustainability works right for their company, but also, by raising the baseline, maximize the impact that MBS can have on the environment. So imagine you're a conference planner and you're working with MBS on your next event. You select a high-tier package, and as a result, at your event, all the greens that are served are from local vertical farms, and instead of water bottles, there's drink stations throughout the venue that are producing no waste. And in exchange for choosing that greener package, you get a small discount that's applied to your block of rooms at the hotel. As your guests walk around the event, they read stories about how, by being there on that day, they've contributed to a more beautiful, luxurious Singapore. MBS has the opportunity to become an innovator in the event space, and we think that through this stewardship model, they can show that green is both high-end and impactful. There are several risks to the Garden City Stewards program that we're proposing, mainly around partnerships, both through the consortium, but also through piloting programs with waste management startups. There's also the ongoing challenge of consumer perceptions of sustainability and resulting demand, as well as the chance that margins could be impacted in the short term by our incentives and investment programs. But MBS is well positioned to mitigate these risks through proper screening of partners before any long-term implementation begins, as well as continuing to gather feedback from customers and employees while programs are being rolled out. And we also think that reinvesting returns from innovation back into the Garden City Stewards model will make sure that margins aren't impacted in the long term. So the Marina Bay Sands Resort is perfectly positioned at this point in time to realize operational, financial, and environmental returns. And we think that they'll see returns in 4 ways: a greener supply chain, stronger employee engagement, and ultimately retention, stronger brand awareness and competitiveness, not just in Singapore, but globally. And we also think they might be able to begin to move the needle forward on consumer behavior. So we welcome and invite you, Marina Bay Sands, and its guests to become stewards of the Garden City now and in the future. Thank you.